Recording in progress.
Please set in a comfortable meditation posture, close the eyes, putting the attention on the silence that's always there deep in the mind. This is the silent witness. You are the silent witness. Not the body, not the mind. Body and mind are pure illusion. This beautiful platform of the silent witness, please listen to the Yoga Vasishta. Continuing today, Book 5, Chapter 13, and verse 115. Men accustomed to the loud beatings of drum are as unconscious to the soft tunes of the lute as they are startled at seeing the face of a sleeping friend. They who fly with fear away from the loud preaching of false preachers cannot have the patience to listen to the silent lesson of their inner guide. They who are deluded by their own minds can hardly be reclaimed by any other. Those who are tempted to taste the bitterness of worldly pleasures as being sweet are so subdued by its effects on their understanding that they altogether lose the power of discerning the truth. Therefore, it is useless to reason with them. Chapter 14. Impossibility of curing the world. The parade of prey. The thinking principle. Vasishta said. Multitudes of men are carried away by the torrents and waves of the sea of worldly pursuits. They are deaf and dumb to the admonitions of their spiritual instructors. They are not fit to derive the benefit of the spiritual knowledge which I have propounded in this yoga scripture by my rational discourses. They who are born blind and can see nothing are not to be shown a painting of a garden by an intelligent artist. Portrayed with blossoming blossoms and beautiful flowers. There is no fool who would present fragrant odors to one whose nostrils are snorting under some nasal disease. And there is no dolt so great who would consult an ignorant man on spiritual matters. What fool is there who would refer a question on law or religious subjects to one of uncovered passions and organs of sense, or whose eyeballs are rolling with the intoxication of wine? who asks of the dead the way he should go? Or one in the gray about where to walk in the city? What witless man seeks the help of an idiot to clear his doubts? Of what good is it to advise a person with little wit, whose serpentine mind is coiled and creeping in the cave of his heart? Though it lies there in silence and sightless, it is yet ungovernably wild. No, there is no such thing as a well-governed mind. Though you may fling it away from you, yet it is never lost or annihilated. The simpleton who does not control his false and elusive mind is tormented to death by its venomous smart, as if stung by a deadly reptile. The learned understand the vital powers. They know the operations of the organs of action, and they depend on the action and force of the soul. Say then, O Ram, what is that thing which they call the mind? The vital breath gives force for bodily actions, and the soul produces the power of knowledge. The organs act by their own force, and the Supreme Spirit is the main source of all. All forces are only parts of the omnipotence of the silent witness. Their different names are only inventions of men. What is it that they call the individual living soul, which has blindfolded the world? What do they label as the mind? It is really an unreality without any power of its own. Rama, I have seen the continued misery arising from their false conception of the unreal mind. My pity for them has caused my constant sorrow. But why should I feel sorrow for the ignorant rabble who bring their sorrow by their own error? The common herd is born to their misery like beasts and brutes. The ignorant rabble are born in their dull material bodies only for their destruction. They are born to die away constantly, like waves of the ocean. What pity shall I take for those who are seen every day perishing under the jaws of death, like numbers of animals immolated in the shambles? For whom shall I sorrow when I see billions and trillions of gnats and moths destroyed daily by gusts of wind? For whom shall I sorrow when every day throughout hills and forests I see hunters and sportsmen killing millions of deer and other game? For whom shall I feel when I find innumerable schools of small fish in the waters, eaten every day by bigger ones? I see an infinite number of microscopic organisms eaten by flies and fleas, which in their turn are eaten by hungry spiders and scorpions. The frog feeds on the flies and in turn is eaten by snakes. Birds of prey swallow the snake, and the weasel preys upon snakes. The weasel is killed by the cat, which is killed by the dog. The bear destroys the dog and is at last destroyed by the tiger. The lion overcomes the tiger and is overcome on its turn by the Sharama. The Sharama is overthrown by its fall on the rocky steeps in its attempt to jump over gathering clouds. The clouds are worsted by tempest, and these again are obstructed by rising rocks and mountains. The mountains are split by thunderbolts, and the thunderbolts of heaven are broken by the thundering Indra. This Indra is defeated by Vishnu. His younger brother and Vishnu is made to undergo his incarnations in the shape of men and beasts. He is subjected to the changing fortunes of pain and pleasure, and to the conditions of disease, decay, and death. Big animals are fed upon by leeches and fleas that stick to their bodies and suck their blood. Men, filled with knowledge and armed with weapons, are infested by blood-sucking bugs and gnats. Thus, hosts of living bodies are continually exposed to feed upon and to be fed upon by another with remorseless hunger. There is a constant growth of leeches, fleas, ants, and other small insects and worms on the one hand, and a continued dissolution of both big and puny bodies in every place on earth. The womb of the waters bears the breeds of fish, whales, hippopotamus, and other aquatic animals. And the bowels of the earth produce multitudes of worms and reptiles to infinity. The air teems with broods of birds and various kinds, and the woods abound with wild beasts, lions and tigers, fleet deer, and other brutes. There are inborn worms growing in the intestines and upon the skin of animal bodies, parasitical insects, and microscopic organisms feed upon the bark and leaves of trees. Insects are seen born in the crusts of stones, such as frogs, worms, and others. Many kinds of worms and insects are found growing and feeding upon the feces and excrements of animals. In this manner, an endless number of living beings are being born and perishing forever and ever. It is of no use to them whether kind-hearted men are joyous or sorrowful at their births and deaths. The wise can have no cause for joy or grief in this continued course of constant births and deaths of the living world. Such is the nature of all the different species of animal beings. They constantly grow to fall off like the leaves of trees. The kind-hearted man who wishes to remove the sorrows of the ignorant by his advice attempts an impossibility as great as that of shrouding the all-pervasive sunshine by means of his umbrella. It is useless to give advice to the ignorant, who are no better than beasts in their understandings, just as it is fruitless to talk to a rock or a block of wood or a stone in the wilderness. The dull-headed, ignorant, who are no better than beasts, are dragged by their willful minds like cattle by their halters. To see the ignorant plunge in the skin of their perverted minds, employed in acts and rites for their own ruin, would make even stones melt into tears. Men of ungoverned minds are always exposed to dangers and difficulties, but the purified minds of the wise are free from the evils and misshapes of life. Now, Ram, consider well the miseries of ungoverned minds and take yourself to the knowledge of the knowable one. Never entertain the vain hobgoblin of a mind in your own imagination. The mind has no real existence of its own. Beware of this false belief, which may betray you like the imagined ghosts of children. As long as you are forgetful of the soul, you must remain in utter ignorance and remain tortured by the serpent residing in the recess of your heart. Now you know the whole truth, as I have explained it to you. It is only your imagination that presents you with the idea of your mind. And you must get rid of that idea forever. If you rely upon what can be perceived, you are subject to the delusion of your mind. No sooner do you shun your reliance on phenomena than you are liberated from your illusion of it. The visible world is a combination of the three qualities of purity, action, and passivity, also known as sattva, rajas, and tamas. It is presented before you by your illusion, called Maya, like a trap to capture beasts. Think of the non-existence, both of the subjective self and the objective world. Remain as firm as a fixed rock on earth, and behold the Lord only in the form of infinite space in your heart. Ram, shun the false thoughts of your self-existence and those of the visible world. Forsake your belief in duality in order to settle yourself in infinite unity. Continue to meditate on the soul as it is situated between the subjective viewer and the objective view of the world, and as it exists in your vision, which lies between the two. Forsake your ideas about the subjects and objects of your taste. And think about their intermediate state of taste as being one with the soul. Ram, place yourself in the position of your power of thinking, which lies between the thinker and what can be thought. Support your soul on the supportless soul of all, and remain steady in your meditation. Forsake the cares of the world and be exempt from thoughts of existence and non-existence. Remain established in the silent witness and be settled with your soul in that soul. When you have learned to think on the thinkable one, by renouncing the thought of your own existence, then you shall arrive to that state of unconsciousness, which is free from misery. Know your thoughts to be your chains, and your self-consciousness to be your binding. Therefore, O Ram, loosen the lion of your soul from the prison house of your mind by departing from the state of the silent witness and falling into the thoughts of the mind. You will be crowded by your imaginations, and you will see all about you only the object of your thoughts. Now let us continue established as the silent witness. Start the process of Trimana Sanyama in the mind. balance all the karmic traces that have been touched on and awakened by today's reading of the Yoga Vasishta. Jai Gurudev.